Welcome to the Steroids Podcast with your host, Dan the Bodybuilder from Thailand. Boom! Boom! Let's get started here. The Steroids Podcast is brought to you by Ultimate Guide to Roids, 109-page ebook by Dan the Bodybuilder from Thailand. Now, for the first time in bodybuilding history, you have someone with no corporate interests and no obligation to please anyone, not walking on eggshells to not offend. Ultimate Guide to Roids gives you the information, the whole truth, not a full truth and a half truth, full truth. Ultimate Guide to Roids gives you the keys to the Lamborghini, gives you the information, and lets you decide what to do with it. It's a crime this information has been suppressed this long. Now let's get on with the podcast.
Hi guys, time for a new podcast. The first thing I want to talk about today is I noticed that some guys that go to the gym don't want to call themselves bodybuilders. And I was thinking that maybe it would be good for a lot of guys to possibly start labeling themselves bodybuilders. Because when you label yourself something and you believe you are something, then if that's like your self-image, then you start just like automatically taking actions to like make that happen. So you want to have that in your self-image like already. Like if that's what you're aspiring to be, like at all, then you should already be like loading that into your self-image and, calling yourself a bodybuilder, even like if you're natural, but your goal is to like look like a bodybuilder, but you're not there yet. And so you don't want to tell people that you're a bodybuilder because then they might laugh at you or something like that. Now, if your goal is to be a bodybuilder, then you got to label yourself that. And it would actually be good to tell people that yes, you are a bodybuilder, even if you may not even completely look the part yet because, or not just completely, you don't look the part yet. It would still be good to tell people that, or you're working on becoming a bodybuilder or stuff like that. Because when that is in your self-image and you're like, I'm a bodybuilder, then I'm serious. You start doing the stuff in your life automatically that you need to do in order to make that reality. So guys that aren't calling themselves bodybuilders, but that's your goal, stop being so shy. All right, Nathan asks, great book, Ultimate Guide to Roids. Great podcast. Listening to every episode. You're like listening to a down-to-earth yoked endocrinologist. I'm 42 years old, 6'1", 195, 15% body fat. 5 days a week workouts. Clean as F. High protein focused diet. Hit natural plateau. Doctor said I had low T at 320 nanograms per deciliter. Started TRT 6 weeks ago. 100 milligrams per week to cypionate. Last lab was 1,000 nanograms per deciliter. So, high normal now. However, he doesn't feel any different, which is normal. He says he doesn't feel any more awake, no extra gym power, maybe a tad better libido, but nothing worth the anxiety of stabbing himself with a needle or the acne popping up that he's getting. And so, that's actually totally normal effects for that dosage. Even when you go up to 500, so 5 times the dose that you're taking right now, you're not going to be noticing after, after 6 weeks, you'll be like, okay, I'm bigger, I'm stronger. I'm not in a plateau, but it's not going to be something like you're going to the gym and you're being like, damn, I've got a huge sex drive and, a ton of power and stamina at the gym, and huge pumps. And, my strength is just fucking shooting through the roof. And that's if you're taking 5 times the dose that you're taking, because you're taking 100 milligrams per week. So, people have expectations. I think everybody thinks that they're going to be looking like an IFBB pro after their first cycle or something like that. I think pretty much everybody thinks that. And, a lot of people too will think before they start that they know a lot about steroids, but then once they start, then it's apparent that they don't know as much as they thought, because like experience is so important when it comes to dealing with these things, not just like book learning. I know I felt those things. Anyways, first cycle, let's keep on going with this question. Is there any benefit to getting that dose up to 200 to 250 milligrams and topping it with 30 to 50 milligrams Anadrol or even a touch of Anavar in lieu? Is there any benefit? Right now, insurance is paying for the tea, but more interested in farm grade gear rather than cost. Good. I would agree with that mentality, because, man, if you're not using legit gear, it's like the bodybuilding process can't work right, because it has to be diet, training, and legit roids all at the same time. There can't be one of those three pillars missing, or else bodybuilding doesn't work. And so, and when I say training too, I mean training that is increasing your gym performance over time. So what you can do in the gym on the same fucking exercises is going up. You've got like a selection of exercises that are your favorites, and over time, what you can do with those is increasing. On a graph, it is going up. That means your training is in check, the diet, and then the roids, and the roids have to be legit. So that attitude of he says right now insurance is paying for the testosterone, but more interested in farm grade gear rather than cost. So he knows he can get the other stuff at men's clinics. That I guess the Anadrol or Anavar. A doctor. Just wondering if there is a benefit, like a hormone doctor. Just wondering if there's a benefit in low dose cycling versus the normal 500 plus test cycles bodybuilders run. Goal is a few less % body fat and about 15 pounds more muscle. Thanks. Yeah, definitely. So doing like 250 milligrams, I noticed that you're already noticing some aromatization or some estrogen. So, at 100 milligrams, you said you have some acne popping up. That's likely from having your estrogen elevated. So that says that you're like someone who aromatizes or produces like a significant amount of estrogen, probably from testosterone. So, if you do higher testosterone, like 500 milligrams, that might be hard for you, like dealing with that, or more than 500 milligrams, because then you have to start using AIs and like controlling like high or low estrogen and like balancing that. And there's like a learning curve to that. It's not a problem. It's just like, like nothing, like once you get the hang of that. But there is definitely a learning curve to learning how to handle estrogen. So for a first cycle, I would prefer if the person was not exposed to that learning curve. So if you're someone who aromatizes a lot, like 200 to 250 milligrams of testosterone, and then using like Anadrol, 50 milligrams a day on top of that, that would be a really good option, because Anadrol doesn't aromatize. In some people, a minority of people, not the majority, but the minority of people, Anadrol can connect directly to their estrogen receptor and cause some estrogen effects through that way. But Anadrol itself is actually a DHT, and it can't become estrogen. So it doesn't aromatize, like it does not interact with the aromatase enzyme. So that would be a good one, because it's not going to increase your estrogen. So I would say that that's a good idea. And, for the aforementioned reasons that you're a high aromatizer too. So, that might be better for you than doing like a normal, like higher testosterone cycle right away, because then you don't have to deal with like that learning curve with dealing with estrogen. Okay. Next question. Abhijit asks, hi, Dan. Big fan from India. Binged all your podcasts. Quick question. Should I continue taking creatine, as I'm thinking of going on Testosterone 250 for the first month just to test the water, and we'll go Testosterone 500 for second month, and adding Primo 400 milligrams from month 3, then adding Anavar 20 to 30 milligrams per day for months 4 and 5, then phasing out to testosterone only for month 6. That's a great idea. So I really like the way that you set that up, like for your first cycle. That I think you're going to get a lot of gains out of that. The way that you kept on kind of like ramping it up a little more over time, and with realistic dosages. Like the first thing you went from 250 tests and then doubled it to 500, after the first month, and then you added 400 milligrams of Primobolan, which, yeah, that's going to be an effective dose. And then you added 30 milligrams of Anavar. And then at the end, you're running all that stuff, the higher test, the Primo and the Anavar together, and then, phasing it out for looks like a PCT, or maybe you'll cruise afterwards. You'll decide then. But yeah, it's a really good cycle. I like that. We'll be taking metformin and Cialis all along. Okay, so that'll help with your blood pressure, and the metformin will be helping. It works good for weight loss, because it increases insulin sensitivity and drops insulin secretion, because the sensitivity is higher, so you don't have to secrete so much insulin in response to the food. So then your storage hormone levels are lower. So then on the same amount of calories, you lose weight easier. Without that storage hormone in there blocking your fat cells from contributing to your energy demand needs. He says, should I drop the creatine? I know this is a simple question, but no one has answered this on internet. I listened to all your podcasts, can't find a thing on dropping creatine when jumping on the Roids train. Feel free to answer this on your next podcast. This is my first cycle for a body recount. Thanks a ton, man. Love from India. All right, yeah. So you can keep taking the creatine. You don't have to drop the creatine when you take Roids. Really, creatine doesn't do a lot. When I'm taking Roids and I take creatine, I really don't notice much. And so really how I feel about it is like, is that really one more fucking thing that I'm going to be putting in me to do bodybuilding and have my system processing that? And so I'm pretty much just like, no, thank you. Since I don't really notice a lot from it, but you know what? There's nothing wrong with it. There's nothing wrong with using it. And maybe I think some people like it. They might get like better results from it than me. Maybe I'm a creatine non-responder. I remember like in like 2007, 2008, 2009, that kind of time, there was, creatine was still really big, and like different kinds of creatine, like, creatine ethylester or some kind of shit like that, and it was like, oh shit, creatine was big. That was, it was like, oh, am I taking the right kind of creatine? That's why my gains aren't coming, because I didn't take the right kind of creatine. You got to take the right kind of creatine. Then you're going to get those Celtec steroid-like gains from creatine. But you know what? I never thought creatine really did much. And on Roids, I use it too. It doesn't really do much. But the best time to use it would be during your intra-workout drink. So, you'd have the dextrose or the glucose in your intra-workout drink, and then you'd have 5 grams of creatine in there. And then, you'd also have some amino acids or whey protein in there too, so that, you're bumping that insulin by consuming that dextrose, getting that insulin storage hormone levels through the roof. And then, you've got that glucose dextrose to be pile drived into the muscle cells on account of that insulin, and that protein piggybacking on the back of it. And then also the creatine getting shoved in there at the same time. And since you're drinking that intra-workout drink in the middle of a workout, you've also got a pump. And so like a lot of blood, extra blood, is being delivered to your muscles, and your muscles are the most sensitive to insulin than at any other time. And you've got a bunch of insulin in your blood from the intra-workout drink. Like seriously, the intra-workout drink is a part of the system. Okay. I've talked about this before, and the guys who do it and they try it, if if you've listened to the intra-workout drink stuff, or if you've just kind of skipped it, because I've talked about, the reason why I brought this up is because you're talking about creatine and whether you should take that or not. And I'm telling you that like doing the intra-workout drink, the main thing is the dextrose. That's, like the main thing here because it causes an insulin thing. But you can deliver whatever else is in your bloodstream too. Whatever you want to deliver into cells when your insulin is high and you have that in your bloodstream, it gets shoved in there. So that's why like an intra-workout drink is such a good idea. And it's definitely, I hear a lot of maybe, you're thinking like, what is a natural supplement that works or something like that? Well, this intra-workout drink is like part of the system. Okay. It is part of my system. And, and you know what? It's as powerful as taking Anadrol. Okay. If you're not doing this yet, it's as powerful as taking 50 milligrams of Anadrol per day and what it can do for your physique in 1 week once you start doing it. Okay. And so you got to use, in order to get that effect, you got to be using though at least 100 grams of dextrose per day. Okay. So, intra workout, and, that's 400 calories. And so I hope you burn 400 calories during a workout. So I wouldn't think that's too extreme if you think that, 100 grams of dextrose is way too extreme for you, or because that's another thing too, is that like, with the bodybuilding thing, it's like there's things that hold people back. And like when I am around people and I like see how they are or see what they're doing or something, and I can like see like what holds people back. I can like identify it and be like, oh, okay, well this is, the thing that holds back. And, it's either something about the roids or whatever. Some people, they've got the freaking diet and the training, but they just don't want to, take the amount of roids that are necessary. So they kind of subscribe to other stuff that's kind of like, not true, not the reality of things, because that's like what they want to hear. And then there's other guys, who, they have problems with the diet, that they, some guys don't like chicken and rice, like I remember one time, this was hella funny. I was in Ukraine and one of my training clients, was there, and, we were in my apartment, and, I was eating chicken and rice. This was like post workout or something. And he said, "Are you seriously going to eat that?" And I was like, "What the fuck?" I was like, "Yes." It was just like plain chicken and rice, but like, I don't know. A lot of people want to eat like only delicious food or something like that. But like, I'm not like that, for example. Okay. I will just like eat anything. So there are certain people who have like different, there's like different things that like people struggle with. Okay. And, anyways, I got off on a little tangent there, but yeah, it's the three pillars, you got to have the diet, you got to have the training, and you got to have the roids all on point at the same time. And when you get that on point like that all at the same time, then very, very good things happen fast. It's not slow. Okay. It's on a graph. It's just a line, at like a 45-degree angle going up. So if you want to have great bodybuilding progress, it's good to have an attitude of like, I will do what must be done, and I will not resist. That helps. All right. Email asks, "Hey Dan, love your book. I'm a 21-year-old guy, 177 centimeters, weight 90 kilograms. Very pleased with the results of 300 milligrams of Test E a week. Was wondering what would be the best way heading forward to either go off cycle with a PCT or to take some stuff that would keep my balls alive while blasting and cruising for a couple of years. What PCT would you recommend, and which drugs can keep my balls from shrinking up doing a cycle?" Okay, well, HCG is the one that prevents your balls from completely turning off on a cycle. So if you can take about like 500 milligrams, 500 IUs, about twice per week, subcutaneous, that would work well, okay? And keep your balls running like 75%, like natural test and sperm production. So, and then you were thinking like, what is the next way forward with, like your next cycle? Well, 300 milligrams of test worked good for you. So you could keep it there and you could add something else for a next cycle, or you could increase the test, or you could increase the test and add something else. It really depends on like what your goals are and, how fast you want to gain. Because do you think that, someone on 500 milligrams of testosterone per week gains muscle as fast as someone on 700 milligrams of trenbolone per week? And they're both on their second cycle. One person gains muscle way fucking faster than the other person, okay? There's not like some like set rate on like how muscle growth is, and like, no matter what the fuck you take, it's not going to go faster. That is not true. Okay, so you didn't give me enough information. Talk to you next time. Email. Monaco asks, hey Dan, how are you? I've been following you for many years. Always enjoy the videos from your Dan the Bodybuilder in Thailand YouTube channel. Would be great and appreciated if you could talk about what kind of blood work markers you should look at and consider before starting a cycle. Yeah, complete blood count and a comprehensive metabolic profile, because that'll give you the information that you need about your blood and your organs. So, people talk about like needing to like know your hormones and shit like that, but I know how to manage that kind of shit with anecdotally. I can just go by someone's symptoms and I can get an idea of like approximately where their estrogen is, and then if they give me some feedback and they're like taking a bit of AI, I can like figure out where it is, just from experience. So I'm not really big. I don't, when people test their hormone levels and it's like they get a blood test to like test their estrogen or something to like see if they have a high estrogen and if they should take AI, doing that like once a year or something like that, that seems reasonable to me. But, you wouldn't do that like if you were getting gyno or something like that. Like you just go by symptoms, and if you know how to use this stuff, you know how to use this stuff. So I would say that comes with experience, but anyways, so there's that. You got to make sure your blood's healthy. So complete blood count, definitely. You see, the size of your blood cells and how thick your blood is and various things, electrolytes, and you got to know how your organs are doing. So comprehensive metabolic profile. Another big one is to check your blood pressure, because blood pressure and elevated resting heart rates and cardiovascular disease are the main things hurting bodybuilders. Inflammation. So on a blood test, cardiac C-reactive protein, measure of inflammation in the circulatory system. That's one you don't want to be high. And you don't want to have a high blood pressure or, like a high resting heart rate, You want your resting heart rate to be under 80. I mean, because a lot of bodybuilders have like fast resting heart rates, and you got to like ask like why. Like that is because you are so stimulated. Like your central nervous system is so stimulated, because like resting, it's not really like typical if you're a man and you're just like a normal man to have a heart rate like over like 70 beats per minute, like resting. But a lot of bodybuilders will have like resting heart rates around like 90 or like 105. And I mean, a normal person, like 110 is like cardio. Like it's not supposed to be beating that fast when you're resting. So that's another thing, so stimulation, blood pressure, heart rate, important things to be testing. just to tell you guys what kind of stuff is important to look out for to help with your health. Stuart asks, hey, I bought and read your whole ebook, and it's basically like my steroid gospel, ultimate guide to roids. But I've realized I think some of my PEDs are fake. This was a no-brained tren cycle. I ran at 350 tren and 500 test. No tren cough for the whole 12 weeks. Okay. Yeah, like, if you're running 350 tren per week, you're definitely going to feel that. By the end of 1 week, you either know that it's real or not, if it's tren acetate, And then the thing with the frequency of like trenbolone cough is like, if it's mixed with another roid in the syringe, then the cough only happens like maybe like 1 out of 10 or like 1 out of 7 like applications. But if it's like straight up tren, then usually it happens like 1 of 3 or something like that. Like, so the percentage of times when you take a tren shot and like how it's prepared and like approximately how much, tren cough you're going to be getting. So like frequency of tren cough was explained there. So then the other thing was that, if you think your tren was bunk, because with this stuff, like it is, when you're on legit hormones, it is not the same, okay, as when you are natural, okay? And you will know, dude, because it's the same thing. Like, if you're a bodybuilder, you cannot just like reduce your doses super low and like look the way that you do, like hold on to your muscle or something. No, if you cruise, you look like you're cruising. You go way down. If you're like, going like 100 milligrams of testosterone or 200 milligrams of testosterone, you look nothing like you look on cycle, okay? And that's just from doing a cruise, never even coming off of gear, okay? I'm telling you that there is a serious effect of having these things in your bloodstream. And for guys that are like prospectively becoming bodybuilders, you should know this, is that the effects of these are not permanent at all. The effects of these, you have to like have this shit in you, okay? And like, if you're really serious about the gym and like really serious about bodybuilding and everything, you want to have this stuff in you, and you don't really want to go like take time off and shit like that, because that is going to be interfering with your whole plans for your progression and everything. So now I guess we're covering like how necessary are roids to your progress and shit like that. And that's what I'm saying, is that, they're so necessary that just going to a cruise, you do not look the way that you looked when you were on cycle. You look a lot different when you're on a cruise. That's just reality. All right. Lewis asks, mate, big respect for the podcast. So due to working 14 hours Monday to Friday, I only really have the weekend to train. For this reason, I will be focusing on all compound lifts to get the most bang for buck. What cycle would you consider for this routine? 500 milligrams, 1,000 milligrams, test, 100 milligrams anadrol, or 50 milligrams anadrol with Winstrol stacked. I like that. I like the 50 milligrams anadrol Winstrol stack. If you like orals, those go really good together. They go really awesome together if you like orals. This was my original plan, but now my situation with work has changed with my hours. Would this be worth it due to only being able to train 2 days? If you can only train 2 days a week, it'd probably be good to just like take testosterone or something like that, because you can't maximize it. Like, if you could train 3 days per week, then I would say just go for it. So maybe you can squeeze 1 more day in there, but, and then do like, yeah. So, but 2 days is not enough. So I don't think, in my opinion, it's good. It's better not to use anything harsh if you're only going to be training 2 days a week. So I would just go with test. Okay. Chase asks, I was listening to one of your podcasts recently with D-Tren, and I remember you talking about a better alternative to a cortisone shot to help with inflammation. I have severe tennis elbow and have been dealing with pain for 6 months. So tennis elbow normally comes from the supinator muscle, which is on the outside of your forearm. So it's not like actually like on your elbow, but it's like that chunk of muscle, like a steak on the like outside of your elbow, but it's your forearm. You know the one I'm talking about. Like if you draw a line from your thumb, from the tip of your thumb up to your elbow, you'll be like pointing to that fucking muscle right there. And you have to like squeeze that motherfucker, like pinch it and like get rid of shit there, because that's like where tennis elbow comes from. So anyways, but the stuff that I was talking about when in that podcast with D-Tren was meloxicam. So meloxicam is a really powerful anti-inflammatory, but it's just a NSAID, non-steroidal anti-inflammatory. Yeah, it's really good. Meloxicam 15 milligrams, especially the shots. They're a lot more powerful than the tablets, but both work. And like if you need to like clear inflammation or something like that stuff's seriously strong. All right. So Ronnie asks, I'm trying to cut weight while on cycle. I have pharma human growth hormone on hand and other compounds such as Test, Equipoise, Tren, Deca, Primo, but I'm just cruising right now. I'm 240 pounds, 5'11". Also have metformin on hand. What do you suggest to run while on a slight calorie deficit? Thank you. Okay, so you're trying to cut, you have human growth hormone, okay? So if you could take testosterone and trenbolone and primobolan, that would be good. So you could take testosterone okay, I have no idea where you're at, but here's something, a general idea for somebody who's 240 pounds, 5'11", okay? And, I don't know how much muscle you have or whatever, okay? So, but here's just something general, okay? 750 milligrams testosterone per week. Primobolan, 400 milligrams per week. Trenbolone, 100 milligrams every other day. Metformin, 1,000 milligrams twice a day, but work up to that dose. And then thyroxine, T4, 200 micrograms per day. And HGH, 3 IUs, split 1.5 subcutaneous in the morning and again at night. Theoretically, I think that would be a very great cycle, for someone who was about 5'11", 240 pounds and wanted to get some serious results. Tyson asks, yo, Dan, I've been listening to the pod for a bit. It's amazing. Been looking into insulin and watched your pod about it. I've been using the 200 grams of glucose gummies intra-workout and seeing huge differences. Wow. Yeah, so you're using, the really big dose and that working for you. My question is, do you think one could become an Olympia-level bodybuilder without the insulin injections for obvious reasons? Not that fond of using it, like yourself. It depends on what division you want. If you want to do classic physique or men's physique, no, you don't need it. Although, yeah, you don't need it. You don't need it. Okay? There could be some mild use of it, like peak week only, or no use of it, okay? Other than that, you could make that happen, okay? But you know what, with the way that the classic physique is going, it's moving in a direction where that would not be possible, okay? And the guys that are competing in classic physique are using it, okay? I'm just saying that it's possible not to, okay? That I'm saying that it's possible to get, like that kind of muscle mass, that kind of definition without it. You do have to use growth hormone, though. You have to use growth hormone. So that's my opinion on that. And then, like you said, you've been manipulating your insulin naturally with things like 200 grams of carbohydrates, glucose into your workout. And you say you're seeing huge differences. That does not surprise me. That does not surprise me. If you're on mega shit and you're working out hard as fuck and you have that stuff going on there and you're manipulating your natural insulin, dude, it's some powerful shit. It's some unbelievable shit. That's why I was talking to that guy about it when he was asking about creatine. It's like, you want to know a natural supplement that freaking works. Jason asks, I've been listening to your podcast for the longest time. I have your book, Ultimate Guide to Roids, and man, is it awesome. I have a question. When taking Superdrol, do you spread your dosages throughout the day? I plan on taking 20 milligrams to start and up to 30 milligrams. Do you take one 10 milligram morning and then another later before your workout in the evenings? Thanks. Yeah, that's a good way to use it. Orals work like 90% if you just take them once per day. And if you like spread them out, you can get like a 10%, maybe 20% like increase in the effect of it at the same dosage. So the main thing is just like getting it in like once per 24 hours. That's like the main thing. And then the secondary thing is, like doing it at the right times. So when you eat is the right time. So taking orals with food is the right time, because then, you've got your injectable going, like kind of more like a flat line of testosterone levels or, Deca or Primo levels, whatever, like a flat line, because the ester that's on it, like in your bloodstream, the amount. And then when food comes in and you need nutrient partitioning and, your muscles are going to be absorbing that food and being anabolic, you want to spike those oral levels or those hormone levels at the same time that those energy or food levels are spiking in your bloodstream, so you want those to both be like spikes. So if you take the orals with the meals, it helps partition your food and provides this anabolic stimulus that goes like above, like a spike on a graph instead of a straight line on a graph, right when the energy levels of the food are also spiking on a graph. So that's the way that works the best. Okay, Kaiser asks, what do I need to eat? Like what to eat over a day running high dose test Primo Deca? Mostly, be eating a lot of like chicken and fish with rice, but, the last meal of the day, because insulin sensitivity is huge. Okay. So like, it depends on the individual guy and his metabolism, but, like a lot of times having the last meal of the day, like not have carbohydrates is a good thing, like having like a steak or, ground beef or something like that. And having that like with a salad or like some spinach or something like that, and just calling it like at that, because then you can attach that time without the carbohydrates and without the insulin, because there's not a large insulin release to protein, and the insulin that does get released gets it gets combated by glucagon that gets released at the same time. You're not going to get a lot of insulin release, and then you're going to sleep and you're going to be fasting while you're sleeping. So then you're also going to have, not insulin at that time. So then you get this large time for resensitization to insulin because you're taking away the insulin for an extended period of time, So, if someone is cutting or recomping too, then, you want to add another one of these, no carb meals, probably the first meal of the day, to even extend that window of time where there is low insulin levels and, you don't have the insulin blocking the fat cells from contributing to an energy need. So there's that, so I'll explain that. And, then around your workouts and, if you're a bodybuilder, you've probably got like pretty big energy demands and everything, you're going to want to, have the carbohydrates, and when you have the carbohydrates and your insulin levels are high, you don't want to have the fats, because whatever's in your blood when insulin levels are high gets pile drived into your cells. So of course you're not going to be eating high fat at those times when you're eating high carbs. So it's going to be things like I said, white fish and like chicken breast and like rice and potatoes, things like that, So there is the diet talk. Jack asks, hey, mate, I know I could sign up for your texting which is a training I do on WhatsApp with people, and bodybuilding training questions. But only one question. Usually have everything covered, but unsure about this. All right. 600 tests, 600 masteron, 40 milligrams Anavar daily as of the last 2 weeks. Doing this for 8 weeks. All right. Experiencing lower sex drive than I'd expect on this cycle since I've added the Anavar. Taking telmisartan to control blood pressure. But wondering if the less sex drive could be attributed to anxiety, blood pressure issues, or even estrogen side effects. It sounds like, oh my God. It just sounds like there's a lot of things going on. It sounds like there's a lot of things going on with you. You got anxiety. and I'm not laughing at you. I'm laughing reading this. It's funny. Just like hearing the whole picture together of like the testosterone, the masteron, and then like, why isn't your sex drive higher? You know what? Your masteron probably is pretty bunk. Because that's what I'm talking to you guys about, is that like, having legit hormones and everything like that it's really important. So, because the main effect, proviron and masteron, they're like androgens, okay? They're like pure androgens, and they get inactivated by the enzyme 3-beta-hydroxysteroid dehydrogenase in muscle tissue. And so they have effects in other areas of the body, like the skin. There's a lot of androgen receptors in the skin, in the scalp, in the prostate, in your brain. There's a lot of androgen, androgens have big time signaling in your brain. So like the principal effects of those things are like, to make your sex drive go up really high, and to make your prostate swell, and to make you sweat more, and to make you produce more oil on your skin, and stuff like that, like that's the main effects of like taking masteron and proviron. So, yeah, that's you're not experiencing that though. It doesn't really sound like you're experiencing a whole much of anything, because you just say you're on this cycle and you don't even say anything about gains. You just say you're like experiencing lower sex drive than you expect. It just sounds like the gear is like not very good. Okay, Babyface asks, from what I've read of nandrolone, I don't understand why people recommend 2-to-1 test. Wouldn't a base TRT level of test lead to less of the classic DECA complaints caused by estrogen? So if you're using less testosterone like that, you're going to have less estrogen, yes. And so if you've got a lot of estrogen and a lot of like prolactin together, that's really going to suck and like cause synergistic problems. And so if you can just have one of those going, if you know that you're sensitive to estrogen with testosterone, you produce a lot of estrogen and it's hard for you to control that, then yeah, that would make sense. That would be a good idea to use a lower level of testosterone when you use the DECA, because you're going to have to be dealing with this other female hormone that doesn't go good. Prolactin and estrogen together have synergistic effects. So, you already know that you're sensitive to that, and that probably wouldn't be a good thing for you. So, it would be a good idea for you if you're somebody who aromatizes a lot and you want to use DECA to go, be on the dose of testosterone where you feel very comfortable with managing the estrogen, and that's not going to be a problem. And then, to take the nandrolone, DECA, and, then just have the prolactin to deal with that. But, you're not fiddling around with the estrogen a lot.
All right. So that's going to be the last question for the podcast today. It was fun talking to you guys, and I'll be coming up with another episode for you guys real soon here. So make sure to go pick up Ultimate Guide to Roids, 109-page ebook by Dan the Bodybuilder from Thailand. If you just go to bodybuilderinthailand.com, it's I think it's the first article on the homepage where you can check it out and read like 20 pages. It's definitely worth it. It's my best content. If you like the podcast, the book will blow you away.